It is not the loudest voice that prevails in a courtroom. It's the Constitution. And that's what we heard from Judge Robart today. Judge Robart's decision, effective immediately, puts a halt to President Trump's unconstitutional and unlawful executive order.
It's very upsetting when you sit with 40 to 50 refugees who are all worried about getting kicked out of the country or family members coming over that they thought would be able to come over.
You know, that's very heartbreaking for us to hear, and it's even more heartbreaking for our clients to hear. It brings a huge fear in the lives of those who are already here, and also, great fear for those who are in the process to come and not knowing if they'll ever be able to even experience life in America or just the freedom.
We're not allowing a whole set of people into this country simply because of their religion or because of, factors that are outside of their control.
I happened to be in Washington, D.C. on the day President Trump's Muslim ban came down, and it was a shock throughout the city. And I personally thought of my Irish immigrant grandmother who came to this country.
I think it really hurts to not be the country that we were when my family immigrated here, which was one that was open to refugees and respected the effort that it takes to vet refugees and to bring them into this country and to give them the same opportunities that everyone else enjoys in America to become citizens like we became, to become voters and members of the society, raise families here, and work to make this country better for everybody.
This is a nation of immigrants, and it is part and parcel of who we are that there is a welcome to immigrants and refugees looking for opportunity. And for Donald Trump to propose slamming that door, I think is about as un-American as anything I have ever seen.
I did have a few clients, but thankfully, the blocking of the ban, they were able to come, which is just incredible to see the arrivals and the families come and just the emotions that was built.
Nobody is above the law. And that as a nation, the United States of America is all about being a beacon of democracy and hope and the rule of law around the world.
These core constitutional principles, the things that our country is based on, the thing that is in our DNA, due process, equal protection under the law, those are not to be taken lightly. And it seems as though folks in Washington, D.C. think they can get away with it and make a reality TV show out of the Constitution. And people with his stature, gumption, and intellect are challenging them and winning, and we can be proud of that.
There's a reason why lawsuits usually move so slowly, why it takes months or years for things like this to be decided, because there's so much research and writing and rewriting that needs to go into making an argument this important. And this team did it in like a weekend, maybe a week. That was moving mountains as far as the legal community goes.
And the fact that he has the respect of his fellow Democrat attorney generals around the country to take the lead on this, that speaks volumes for his ability to be a leader.
I have never seen such an emotional outpouring of people that I work for, 7 million Washingtonians, who've told me from the parking garages to the ferry boat to the sidewalks that they're proud of our state for standing tall for who we are as a state and who we are as a nation.
Being the first Attorney General of a state to actually file against the president made me feel proud to be a Washingtonian.
Our AG stepped up with courage along with a number of folks to make sure that everybody is treated fairly and that executive orders aren't running rampant and out of control and that people's rights are protected.
I was one of those people. I was a refugee myself. And to see that someone's fighting for people like that and really just showed me that there is people around there that truly care about the most vulnerable.
This is a total victory in this decision for the state of Washington and more importantly for America.
I think, a lot of people watching tonight would probably be surprised that a judge in Washington State in a courtroom can make a ruling that has nationwide implications.
The reason I feel so strongly is the executive order of such magnitude that the president signed just is a violation of our Constitution and different statutes. And it impacts so many Washingtonians in such deeply personal ways. We're a nation of laws. Folks may not everybody may like this decision. I'm certain the president will not like this decision. But it is his job, it is his responsibility, it is his obligation as our president to honor it. And I'll make sure he does.
History will record, when we look back on this era, that one of the heroes was Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson.
Congratulations, Bob.
Your enthusiasm and your work ethic and energy are a dizzying combination of skills.
There's 50 AGs in our country. You stood up, you were the first in line to make sure that our current administration can't run rampant and trample on people's rights.
Thank you for taking the lead and the initiative on fighting intolerance, prejudice.
Everybody across America is proud of the effort that you led.
Every single person in our community feels safer because of you and your efforts.
I know from my refugee family to your family that it means a huge, great deal to for what you have done. So thank you very much.
And I want to thank our attorneys, Bob Ferguson and Noah Purcell, who did a crackerjack job representing the interests of this country and this state.
We are so proud of you and are so glad to have you as our Attorney General.
And I can say a lot more people in the United States wish that you were their Attorney General as well.
Look, for all the folks who participated in that video, thank you so much for those kind words. That was, I should just stop talking and sit back down. That was over the top, but I really do appreciate it. And before I go any further, I'll treasure that video. I really appreciate it. But I get back to the office on Monday, I'll show it to my team. I mean, those are the folks who are working. I say that the team during the critical. During those critical first few weeks in particular, when I say you're lawyers, it's your law office. When I say they were working around the clock, that is not an exaggeration. They literally had shifts where a team would be working up until midnight, and then another team would come in the office and start at 12:01 and pick up where they left off. That's how intense it really was. And so, we owe a debt of gratitude to those folks who have been working so hard. And they're such a talented group of folks who are so committed to our Constitution and civil rights of all the people of our state. It really was, it's been very inspiring. So, a couple thoughts. First, good evening. Democrats, are you fired up? I am fired up tonight. Number two, I never thought I'd be quoting Paul Ryan, Tina, but I have to say, this week, I think it was Paul Ryan, God, I just want to replay it over and over when he said those words, Obamacare is the law of the land. Right? Now I'm guessing my good friend Derek, who's speaking later on, is going to cover that, so I'm not going to go too much into that, so I'm going to leave that for Derek, but there is a nexus between what we saw with the president's complete inability to close the deal, right? And that executive order. Look, there is a level of incompetence in how he worked with Congress that is only exceeded by the level of incompetence that went into the drafting of that first executive order. That's a fact. That's a fact. And what angered me so much was, we anticipated an executive order might come out. During the campaign, he said, I'm going to create a Muslim ban. He said it on the campaign trail. It was on his website. After he was elected, Rudy Giuliani went on national TV and said, hey, the president has asked me, Rudy Giuliani, to put together a commission to create a Muslim ban just to make it legal, right? They did not disguise where they were going, and I think a lot of folks were in denial that he really would do it, but I have to be honest, I was not. And so our legal team was ready when he issued that executive order. That said, I was taken aback by just how ill-conceived and ill-thought-out that first executive order was. I mean, it really was a shock. So it was, I had been at a conference with other AGs. It was signed Friday night. I landed at SeaTac Airport Saturday morning, and my phone had blown up with messages, and so I talked to my Solicitor General, Noah Purcell, who's quite a brilliant lawyer, a native of Washington State, and there was going to be a press conference at the airport because the protests were happening and the scenes you saw. And I wanted to stay for the press conference, but I felt it was important to get back home, say hello to my kids and my wife, and get to work on examining the executive order. And I guess what I want you to know is, a lot of folks have said, so the team worked that weekend. They were in all weekend, 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, because we decided early on we're going to try and file, to your point, Andrew, a motion and a complaint that would normally take truly weeks, right, if not months. We're going to try and do it in 3 days. That was the timeline we had. We had to file it by the end of the day, Monday, and we thought if we did that, we'd have a chance to get before the judge that Friday and maybe get that injunction in place. Now look, getting an injunction, as any lawyer will tell you, is hard under any circumstances, let alone a presidential executive order that is now in effect, right? You're asking the judge to say, put a halt to that before we have a trial, before there's discovery and you get documents. So I met with Noah that weekend, obviously, and a lot of folks have said, hey, Bob, that must have been a really tough decision, right? You're challenging the president, nobody else was doing it. And, I know it may seem strange, but, honestly, it really wasn't. I don't mean that in a way to minimize the decision, but, the conversation was pretty straightforward with Noah. What we talked about was the following. Are Washingtonians being harmed? Yes. Noah, do we have good arguments? Do we have good arguments? Noah clerked on the U.S. Supreme Court. He knows his way around the Constitution. He said, yes, we walked through those arguments. I said, can I bring this case as the Attorney General, as opposed to an individual? Sometimes there's a cause of action, but I can't bring it. He said, I think we can. Doesn't the question answer itself? Right? Your rights are being violated. We have good arguments. We have the ability to bring it. My only question was, how come everybody else isn't doing it too? Right? I mean, really, right? And I think where folks get themselves in trouble as elected officials or leaders is in making a decision if you're asking questions that are not relevant to the decision. What are the political ramifications? What happens if we lose? Right? What's so-and-so going to think? Right? That gets you away from the key decision, which is constitutional rights are being violated, Washingtonians are being harmed, and we have good arguments. And so my team went to work, we filed that Monday, and it was, to put it mildly, it was the best feeling in my professional life when Judge Robart ruled in our favor. And Judge Robart, by the way, is a judge appointed by George W. Bush. He's a fair-minded judge, but don't buy this whole thing from Republicans that somehow we had some liberal judge out in Seattle, right? This is a judge appointed by George W. Bush. A fair judge, but not an easy judge to persuade on this. And I have to say, I knew my life had changed after the decision came out. We had the press conference on the courthouse steps, and the judge had granted the injunction, and I got a phone call from my mom. She's 88, about to turn 89, so I think she's calling to say congratulations, right, my mom? So I picked it up, and my mom said, Bobby, CNN just called. Anderson Cooper wants to talk to you, and they're trying to track you down. So that's when I knew things were a little bit different. So, but the thing is, the frustration we all feel with this administration is so deep, right? It is so deep, it is so maddening, it is so frustrating what's going on. The tweets, the commentary, the proposals, you name it, right? But here's the thing, and really it's the beauty of our system of government. You cannot tweet your way out of violating the Constitution. You can't do it, right? You cannot do it. It is not the loudest voice that prevails in a courtroom. It's the Constitution. It's the rule of law. That's what prevails. And, I found it somewhat ironic after we won at the Ninth Circuit, upholding our injunction. I was at my press conference, and a reporter said, the president just tweeted the following. And he tweeted, in all caps, he said, see you in court. He said, see you in court. The security of our nation is at stake. To which I said, well, we've seen him in court twice, and we're 2 for 2. Let's start with that. But I also said, hey, the future of our Constitution is at stake too, right? The future of our Constitution is at stake. And that's what I find so affirming of what's happened, right? Now that more states are on board, fantastic organizations like the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, the ACLU have filed their own lawsuits, more judges are stopping what's going on. And that's what's affirming about this to me, that we are a nation of laws, right? We have a Constitution. There's a system of checks and balances. And I guess just one more thing I'll say about it, which is, I was speaking at Gonzaga Law School yesterday about this, and By the way, go Zags, by the way, right? I should have started, the video threw me off, Andrew. I should have started. The only better than having a sold-out Democrats dinner in Spokane is watching the Zags go to the Final Four before the dinner, right? It's only better. But one thing I want you to know about what's at stake in this litigation is in their briefs, the lawyers for the federal government, your lawyers, right? Our lawyers, the federal government, what they argued in their briefs was that not just that the president's authority to issue an executive order is broad or merits some deference, which it does. There's broad authority given to a president, that's true. But what they actually put in their brief was that it was unreviewable. It's in their brief. So I was looking forward to the oral argument for the Ninth Circuit, which was broadcast all around the world. NOAA was doing it. And during the oral argument, one of the judges of the Ninth Circuit asked the following question to the Department of Justice attorney. The judge said, "Are you asserting that the president's actions are unreviewable?" And there was a long pause. Listen to it sometime. There was literally, it's 7 or 8 seconds. I'm not exaggerating. It's 7 or 8 seconds. You can hear the shuffle of papers. And then the one-word answer, yes. Unreviewable. Are we not a democracy? Are we not a nation of laws? That argument, and I was proud of my Solicitor General, Noah Purcell, his response to that was that argument was truly frightening, which it is, and it hacks me off, it pisses me off. It does, right? It does. So there is so much at stake here, right? It's holding the president accountable to the rule of law, but it's also holding accountable our Constitution of a checks and balance system on whoever the president is, right? I guess lastly, I could go on all night, but you have too many speakers to listen to me much longer, but I'll just say this, is that I say this to my team all the time. The law can seem abstract, right? And you go to law school and you're learning civil procedure this and these seemingly arcane constitutional provisions, it can seem abstract. But what I tell my team all the time, and we have nearly 600 attorneys who do work on your behalf, what I tell them all the time is, look, behind every case there are real people and real lives that are impacted by whatever we do. And to always keep that at the forefront of your mind. It's why I went to law school, right? Is the ability to use the law in a way that helps people. It's why I'm not in a private law firm. It's why Noah Purcell, who I can assure you could be making a lot of money in a private law firm, is not doing that, instead working for you. That the law is a powerful, powerful thing. It holds everybody accountable to it. It holds you, it holds me, and it sure as hell holds the President of the United States accountable to it. It does. So I want you to know that this is personal to a lot of people, and I appreciate how many of you here tonight and how many people around the state have expressed their appreciation. But it's personal to people in very different ways. I just came back from a trip, actually I had a long-planned trip with 3 college buddies. I've known them for decades, and we were going to go to England to watch English Premier League soccer games. It's a long story, but it's what we wanted to do. So it was in the middle of all this craziness, I just sort of slipped out of the country for a week. And one of these 3 buddies, and I hadn't really thought much of it, but I met him when we were teenagers. He was born in Iran. He was born in Iran. And we were talking, I hadn't really thought about, when you're a teenager, we were in college, we weren't focused on this, but he obviously, we talked about on this trip, he'd had a visa to be in the United States, student visa, and eventually was able to stay in the country permanently and become a citizen. And he went on, eventually, he was quite an excellent student, went to University of Washington Medical School, first in his class at the University of Washington Medical School, and now lives here in the state with his wife and kids. And Sam said to me, look, Bob, under this administration, with that travel ban, I would not have been allowed into the country. What kind of a policy is that keeps someone like Sam out of our country? What kind of a policy is it, the people you saw in the video and all the scenes around the airport, what kind of a policy is that? So not only is it wrong, but fortunately for us, it's unconstitutional. And I just want you to know that I will fight every single day and to uphold the rule of law, to uphold our Constitution. It's an honor to really have the job, and I'm so thankful I have a job where that's the role of an attorney. And frankly, the role of the Attorney General is so strong to hold an administration accountable. And I just want you to know that we appreciate so much all your kind words, all your kind notes. The team appreciates that. It keeps us going. And look, this won't be our last fight with this administration. We're sure of that. But I just want you to know we have your back. We'll be fighting this from here on. And I appreciate all that each of you do, the folks here at these tables, each of you at a grassroots level, because it will take a team effort around our state and around our country to hold this president accountable and to take back that White House in 2020. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.